Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to GamerTube, and welcome to a special Christmas themed episode in our Little Nightmares character concept series. So in today's video, the character we're looking into is Krampus. So we'll go into this character's location, backstory, gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. Now as always, I will just state that this isn't necessarily linked to the overall universe and lore of Little Nightmares. This is just a fun what if scenario and a cool creepy Christmas story we get to tell. We hope you enjoy. And lastly, before we start today's special Christmas video, do be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Alrighty, well, let's get into this special Christmas Little Nightmares episode with Krampus. So our story begins in a place unknown to most. This was a place that was once filled with joy and happiness. This was once a place that brought joy to many people. But now it has become a rotten shell of itself. A place deprived of any source of joy imaginable. Although this place doesn't operate like it used to, but it still operates today. But after the previous owner was overthrown, the new management in charge ruled unmercifully. They were cruel and unfair to all the workers. They are forced to work night and day without any rest, and those who fall behind are never seen again. Throughout this place, there are many workers. But there was one in particular who couldn't stand to live life like this anymore. They had a plan to get out of here once and for all. If they stayed any longer, it would surely be the end of them. So this individual is known as the Elf. As a matter of fact, all the workers are known as elves, but they definitely aren't their jolly selves anymore. So the Elf's journey out of this wicked place starts at the assembly line. Whilst all the others were working, the Elf would make a break for it. So they start by abandoning their post and sneaking past the assembly line. All the other workers were too busy to even notice, nor would they even care. It's like they were content with working their lives away. The Elf couldn't even convince them to escape even if they tried. So the player needs to shimmy underneath the conveyor belt and watch out for any rejected toys. A chute would open up beneath them and the rejected toys would fall through. They needed to be careful because they would get knocked down below and into the chute as well. After they've successfully passed the assembly line, they need to then find a way up a broken step. They could use multiple old presents to pile up together and make their way up. The player can also be fooled by some of the presents. Some can be dragged, and others can be surprise presents that would give the Elf quite a shock. Once they've stacked the presents up, then they can reach the steps and make it to the next area. They reach a large door. It's locked, and they need to find the key, but it doesn't mean they can't jump up to the latch and peek inside the keyhole. The room seems empty. They can see another door on the other side. Hopefully this would be the exit. And finally, they would... The Elf falls from the latch and hears the door unlock from the other side. The Elf quickly hides before they're found. Just as they do, a large shadowy figure walks out of the room. It was him. He was still here. They thought they had left ages ago. The Elf thought that everyone worked day after day out of fear that he was still here. And it turns out, he was. It seems he hasn't ran out of food just yet. He's eaten almost everything in sight. He even turned to eating the ones who pulled the sleigh. That was a shame. The Elf was quite fond of them, but now they are no more. It seems that he's left the door open. Perfect. Now the Elf can make their way and escape. As they walk over to the next door, they climb up on the desk. But this turned out to be a bad idea. All of a sudden, the shadowy figure burst into the room. Now we get to see who exactly this creature is. And it's revealed to be Krampus. Krampus stood on two skinny legs. Their body is covered in patches of matted fur. Two large horns protrude from their head. Their face is thin, and their mouth is filled with deadly sharp teeth. Krampus charges after the Elf as they try to grab them off the desk. The player needs to outrun Krampus and make a run for the door. When Krampus reaches out his hand to grab the Elf, the player needs to jump in order to dodge it. The Elf leaps off the desk and onto the door handle. It opens up and the elf is exposed to the bitter cold of the outside. Everything is covered in snow. They make a run for it before Krampus can get a hold of them. They quickly run through the snow and make their way towards the stables. There was a small crack in the wooden door and the elf would fit through just fine. They manage to wiggle through as Krampus repeatedly tries to knock down the door. As the player quickly makes their way through the stables, they come across a step that they need to get up to. What they also find is quite shocking as well. It's the sleigh pullers, or what's left of them. They were once large, humble beasts, but now nothing but a pile of bones. The elf needs to drag one of the skulls over to the step to get up. Oddly enough, the elf is pretty convinced that they know which sleigh puller this skull belongs to. They quickly climb the skull and get up the step. They come across a ladder and decide to climb it. As they do, Krampus manages to burst the doors open. The elf quickly climbs the ladder before they get any closer. In a stroke of luck, the bottom half of the rickety ladder breaks off and falls to the ground. Luckily, they are just out of reach of Krampus, but they need to keep moving or else that could change quickly. They move through an open panel and find themselves shimmying across the metal gutters outside. Hanging from the gutters are rows of deadly sharp icicles. Each of them look pointier and sharper than the last. As they walk along the frozen gutter, Krampus notices them once more. He frantically tries to reach for them as the elf scampers along the gutter. The elf then realises there's only one thing to do. So in this gameplay segment, the player would need to run along the gutter and jump up and down above the icicles. Eventually they would break off and injure Krampus. The elf gets to work jumping up and down and forcing the sharp frozen icicles down on the vicious beast. An icicle breaks off and stabs into his body. Just a few more icicles should do the trick. As Krampus reaches for the player, he's stabbed by yet another icicle. It's almost like he doesn't care. He was far too enraged to even notice the sharp stabbing pain. Finally, the elf starts to jump up and down on the last icicle. This was the largest of the bunch, and it should definitely do some damage. The player needs to jump a great number of times to break this large icicle free. Eventually, after jumping and jumping, it cracks and crashes down towards Krampus. Finally, they've done it. Krampus was no more. Finally, the little elf was free. They walk over to the end of the gutter pipe and break the ice that covers it. They then slide down to the ground and crawl out of the rain pipe. The elf has never known freedom like this before. They were overwhelmed with what they would do with their new life. First of all, they need to find somewhere much more safe to live, if such a thing existed. And then, when the time was right, they would come back for their fellow elves and set them free. It would take some convincing, but they are sure the cold and still body of their cruel overlord would prove otherwise. And once all the elves were free, they could finally live a life they deserved. A life free from cruelty and punishment. And maybe one day, they could find their original master, if he was still out there. Alrighty everyone, well that was all for our Little Nightmares Christmas special with Krampus. If you enjoyed what you saw here today, then do be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of Krampus and this special episode. Alrighty everyone, well to our next video, do be sure to have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.